It's an exciting time to be in retail, given this beautiful cohort of folks who are coming in. And our attempt to understand them, unravel them, has been super fascinating, and that's what I'm here to kind of share with you. The Gen Z cohort is, as someone recently presented to us, told us, the most researched audience cohort that probably exists in history. And quickly they followed it by saying the most not understood audience cohort that exists, right? So this is a little bit of work in progress for all of us. There are some early shoots that we've seen, and that's kind of what I'd like to share today. First, the first section is what I've called Gen Z myth busting, and that comes across because I've been in rooms like this where a lot of folks have said, why should I focus on Gen Z? They are college goers, they don't spend much, there's no loyalty, and many other such similar words. I'm going to try and help bust a little bit of myth over there, but from our perspective, from a Myntra perspective, we are almost taking a stab and saying our future growth depends on our ability to talk to this audience. As we are today, there are 200 million Gen Zs in urban India. 60 million of them are already transacting online in some form or the other. Okay, so no way a small cohort, no way a not buying cohort. Are they buying as much as millennials, etc.? Of course they are not. They are in a different stage of life. But what they are doing in certain categories, buying much more than millennials, right? So the way we see it is 5 years out, for a brand like Myntra, the 200 million Gen Z would be our source of growth and the core business, and we want to start now. So that's how we've approached it, and we are super excited to kind of double down on this cohort. So yeah, I think some of these, one is their students, they can't afford much, is of course. So you have to understand that 30% of Gen Z are no longer students they've all come into the workforce at some level, purely from an age perspective. They're all first jobbers at some level. But even if they're not first jobbers, the reality is that this is an audience who, as they go through college, understand this beautiful word called side hustle, and they figure out avenues to make money because it's important for them to spend, right? This is the statistic that we have, which is 69% of them have some kind of side hustle or a way to figure out how to make money. And they're innovative in many ways. A common one that we see a lot today, and which will also be relevant for us as much as for a lot of you, is becoming a creator / influencer, right? Easy for them because they're digital first, they're digital born, and now we are at a stage where every single one of them can figure out a way to monetize it. Second is low attention span. How do we really reach out to them? It is not their problem, it is our problem, right? The reality is that if you show them the right kind of content, they have higher watch times, whether it is creator videos, whether it's movies, and this is statistics that's coming out of YouTube, right? So they will pay attention to you if you serve them the right way, and that's what we have to figure out. We have to, at some level, let go of possibly the traditional ways of how we do content / storytelling to make it relevant for them. But how many of us already would know people who say that when there is a new series launched, I've binge watched it over the weekend? If that is that is not low attention span. That is the highest level of attention span. So it exists. We just have to make sure that we deliver to it. Will they be consistent customers? Do they have money? The reality is they do. This is the most interesting statistic that I found. 40% of the National Stock Exchange registered users are Gen Z. Okay? Does not in any way mean that they are really good in investments. We leave that part aside. But the fact and reality is this shows that their intent to either save, make money, to consume exists and is very, very strong. right? No one's going to become a member of the National Stock Exchange just for fun or to show it on their CV. They are doing it because they realize that there is an upside. And the beauty for all of us here is that upside, they're doing it to consume. They are not doing it to save for the future, they're doing it to consume. So from a business perspective, it's an amazing sweet spot for all of us. They just buy on impulse. How do I really capture them and talk to them? Again, their shopping behavior is different from the past. 67% of them look at online customer reviews before buying. The traditional way of buying was, I look for quality markers or trust markers from a brand, from a celebrity, or otherwise. They have a different kind of a trust marker. Their quality trust marker is, are people like me talking well about this brand? For us as an online platform, therefore, ratings and reviews becomes uber important, because if I can say whatever I want about something, but they are going to believe if 50 other people like them have commented over there on that product saying good, bad, ugly. And the good part of this cohort is there is no filters. If they find something bad, they will say it's bad. And you have to accept it for that face value and move on. But that honesty is very important for them, and that's what they search the most for. So that's important, and how do you kind of piggyback on that is going to be key. Do they influence revenue? As I said, we've got data which says that at least from an e-commerce perspective, 25% of GMV is driven by Gen Zs in the lifestyle space, right? That's quantified. And what we do know is in households, they kind of impact 85% of purchasers. They are the chief decision makers in their families. Just extend yourself to anything in the realm of electronics, tech. No one is going to know it more in their family than that Gen Z, right? Because they research it. They will know tech specs of whether it's a TV, whether it's a washing machine, whether it's a mobile. I would argue whether it's a water purifier, right? Going down to, of course, things related to home decor, related to fashion, etc., right? So these folks are, where they're interested, they will go deep, and they have strong influence. Very, very quantifiably, this is a study done along with the folks at Bain and Myntra. What we do know, as I said, is 60 million of them are active purchasers online today. What they do is do more transactions in a year than others. The counter to that is they spend lesser, right? So at Myntra, if I look at a millennial, if I had to look at a women's dress, I would be around the 1,000 price point for millennials. The price point here would be 500 to 600. So that there is that difference, but they will buy more often through the year than the millennials do. So the way the maths works out is that they are as big a consuming cohort today, and if you future cast all 200 million buying, they are going to be a very big consuming class in the future. So for us, this cohort is super important. So now this is them, and just looking at them from a business contribution perspective. Now comes the tough part, which is how do you get to them? How do you make them buy into you as a brand, as a retailer, etc., which is where we get into what we call insights. These are some of the top questions that they kind of pose to you as a brand. A, is it for me? Are you talking specifically to me is very, very important. Their version of saying, are you a Gen Z brand? Otherwise, I don't care about you. Are you on trend? This is super important. I'm making loose generalization, but for a large part of the country, from a fashion perspective, brand was super important as you were making choices, right? Because again, there were markers of whether it's a global brand, national brand, D2C brand, that was important. For this cohort, trend is important. Is it with the times? And when I say with the times, again, fashion is about, loosely speaking, spring, summer, autumn, winter, traditionally. For them, trend is what is on this month. For them, trend is a new season of Emily in Paris has come about, and therefore do you have what that show is talking about. Call Me Bay has come out. Do you have what Ananya Pandey is wearing in that, right? So for them, trend is super micro. Somewhere in the world, Beyonce launches a music video that has a certain kind of denim, very real time, that is sought after in India. Extremely difficult for all of us, whether you are a marketplace that's curating brands or you are a brand making for it. Extremely difficult to be real time, but that's the agility that this cohort demands. So how do you be on trend for them? Third is, can we co-create? They believe, they don't believe in traditional hierarchies of you know more than me in fashion or any other kind of category. They want to understand and say, I want a voice in what you are making, and then I will buy into you. So how do you figure out that version of co-create? Inclusivity is important. They, by as a cohort, believe in differentiation / being not sticking to stereotypes. They believe in embracing a certain authentic version of themselves. They are unafraid and unabashed to talk about how they are different between one and another, and they actually celebrate it. A lot of previous cohorts would want to be like someone. They want to be, as someone famously said, my favorite is me. That version is celebrated, and that differentiation is celebrated. They don't seek uniqueness. So how are you being inclusive to all kinds of Gen Z? They believe in a certain show me, which is, I'm again interpreting it from the fashion and beauty world, which is make it more visual, make it more video led. I am born in Instagram. What I see is what I consume. YouTube Shorts is what works for me. If you extend it globally, it would be the TikTok version. But for them, it's very visual. So how do you cater to that? Value is important. We looked at the earlier slide which spoke about it, which is, I am not going to pay what the earlier generation was. I am in a different stage of life, so how do you re-engineer for me? Are you sustainable comes out a lot. At this stage, I'm going to say it is sought after, but it is not something that they will pay for. They are not there yet. It is something that they care about, they talk about, it's top of mind, but just the very fact that sustainable brands have not yet. I think it will get there, but it's a stage in life, but they're not yet there. And the last one, which is my community with you. That's the marker, right? These seem intuitive. I'm guessing all of us would have seen it in some form or the other in presentations. What I'm going to chat about is how we've interpreted it at Myntra and what's kind of worked and what's not. So the first one is is it for me? And we realized that as cool as we think Myntra is, for them Myntra was not cool enough. So they needed a separate section. So which is why we launched Forward, which is an app for them. Right? And honestly, all of us, myself included at some point, thought, hey, we are the coolest brand that exists. But for Gen Z, no, we are not. So for them, we created, first of all, an app version called Forward. And how do you get more and more of Gen Zs to land in there? And that becomes their version of what Myntra is. What is that version for each of you, I think, is question number one. Second is what I've of course said, show me. And this is where we've made a big change with everything in Forward, which is where we've leaned in a lot more to a video-led experience for folks as they scroll the app. Right, as you can see, this is an example. So we've got a video-led catalog now of 180,000 videos. Almost looks like something that you would see on Instagram. It's got a good mixture of creators coming on, talking about videos. A lot of these are not, as you will see here, they are talking about styling. They are not talking about selling a brand, etc. What's important for them is how do I style? How do I look good when I go to campus, when I'm entering the workforce, when I'm going to the gym, any of these occasions. So a lot of this comes out to videos that help me style. And below is how you kind of put in the widgets to say, if you like what you see there, you can click and buy it. So this amalgamation of the word we use is social commerce, which is social content, but mixed with commerce is probably the future. And the video-led catalog is one example of that. The next one is, does my community approve? And how do you kind of engineer for this? So we launched something called Ultimate Glam Clan, which is basically saying, if you are a shopper on Myntra, you can become a creator on Myntra. You've bought something, take a photo, take a video, review it, and upload it. We will surface it on the app, right? So anyone looking for a red top, as they're searching, we will show user-generated reviews of different red tops. They can make choices whether they like it or not. Interestingly enough, as much as we do a lot of influencer work, we've launched this, I think, in October. We've got 400,000 sign-ups on this program, right? People leaning in to say, I will put this. What works for them is two things. A, they get showcased on the Myntra app. And of course, we are working to figure out how do you make it even more important, how do you show up in the first page, those kind of things. But more importantly, we've said that if someone clicks on your video/visual and buys, you get a commission of it. So we've made it a creator affiliate model for every single person. You don't have to be someone with millions of followers to make money. We are democratizing the creator ecosystem in the country by saying, you may have no followers on other platforms, but come to us, showcase this. If people buy, then hey, you're going to make money of it. In the last 4 months, our top creator has earned anywhere between 15 to 20,000 per month. Our average is between 500 to 700 across the different people, right? So it's amazing because what we are getting is Gen Z coming in and talking of what's good, what's not. And as I said, they are honest. We have to be true to their honesty and showcase it. What they get out of it is, again, they look for side hustle, they look for money. We give them. And of course, our hope is as we give them money, they come back and transact on Myntra with it, of course. But that's the kind of circle that works through in trying to get this community going. Is it on trend? Super important as you talk about everything fashion and retail. So the way we've done cataloging has kind of changed, gone from the studio style cataloging to making it more Insta style cataloging. This is also where a lot of AI will come in. The bottom two is 100% AI, right? Zero shoot involved in that. So how do you kind of get better at it and how do you do it at scale? I don't think we are there yet, but we are experimenting to figure out how to make that happen. Continuation of how do you be on trend is even how we do our descriptions, for example, we don't start with brand name now. We start with bodycon dress, we start with mini dress. Those are more important because that's how they are searching. The brand, as you can see, comes later. Right, so those are minor changes in even how we are cataloging and our product interface works. Another version of is it for me, and of course we are a tech platform and how do you move that forward is what we've called Fashion GPT. It is a Gen AI version of search. So again, this is a cohort which does not search for denim trouser. It does not one that searches for pink sari. It is a cohort which will search for I have a wedding in Jaipur in winter and I want something pink, right? So how do you go about kind of answering that, which is where we launched Fashion GPT, which is the conversational search engine that we have. And the adoption, as expected, is highest amongst Gen Z. And when they do this kind of adoption, it leads to, again, our version is it leads to higher engagement. They spend more time on the app, they scroll more, and the minute that happens, conversion is better. And therefore, all your revenue metrics kick in. So this is the other version of how we are taking Is It For Me forward. Value, super important. So our price points on forward are lower, but more than that, what we've kind of done is launch something called the Forward Pass, and where we are kind of balancing two things. One is, yes, don't worry. One is how do you get loyalty, and second is deliver value, both, right? Loyalty, we are saying, is buy this pass for $9. For 6 months, you will get 50 rupees off on an article every month. So they are getting higher value. What we are getting is hopefully their intent to say, hey, for 6 months, I've got something to buy at Myntra every month, right? So that's kind of how we are providing value. Outside of, as I said, the base pricing needs to be in the sweet spots that matter. So with all this, we've kind of early stages, but we've seen some level of success. Year on year, we've gone from about 8 million Gen Z customers to about 16 million Gen Z customers. We'd like to believe that from a fashion platform perspective, we are one of the leading ones in India. But this is just the start. As I said, 200 million Gen Zs, we're very far away from that. But this is the kind of space where we are looking at doubling and multiple Xing of revenues year on year. So that's kind of where we are. One small thing to remember as you do all this and figure it out for your own brands is to remember that Gen Z is not one cohort. They are not all the same. 200 million people cannot be the same, right? This is just one snapshot of how diverse Gen Z are. A lot of times, even for me, when we started out, Gen Z was the first two. Fashionista and urban trailblazer, the edgy folks who want to rebel and showcase themselves, break norms, tends to be what we think of from a Gen Z. But this is India, right? And you have different versions of Gen Z, all of them having different values that are important for them. The actual slide has archetypes for each of them, what it means from a fashion perspective. So I think it's important. And when it's 200 million, there is enough of a market to cater to each of them. Very difficult for any brand to cater to all of them, right? So I think a little bit more understanding is going to be, what does your brand, your service as a retailer, what do you stand for each of these different cohorts? And how do you kind of service everything from a selection perspective, experience perspective, price point perspective, etc. So that's kind of, this is honestly space that we're still exploring and figuring out, but I think it's an important one to understand as we look at this cohort. That's all I have. Thank you so much.